Okay, so this is 120 class. We're 2 boys today. We're going to start off with some briefs. So, and then we're going to practice these in some Q&A as well. So we have, could you please, K-O-U-P-L-S, could you please state your name, S-T-U-R-N, for the record, F-R-O-R-D, F-R-O-R-D, for the record, S-T-U-R-N, state your name, K-O-U-P-L-S, could you please? Have you ever, V-U-F-R, have you ever? Have you had, V-U-D? Do you have, D-A-O-U-V? Notice, N-O-I-S. Subpoena, S-P, subpoenaed, S-P final D. And there's even more on this handout that I gave you than is on the list. And after I dictated this the first period, some of those students really liked some of these other briefs. So feel free to add these, and actually maybe I added some of them down below. Similar, S-L-A-R, okay, that's a great brief. So similarity, come back for just the TI. Document, D-O-M-T, document, okay. Taken, T-A-I-N, taken. Afternoon, A-F-R-N, afternoon. Okay, let's do some of these. And then again, if you have a chance to look at this before Friday, that'd be great, but we are going to do this in class on Friday. We need to kind of just skip over this other person. I'll make it up as I go. Okay, so this will just be, it's not counted or anything, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity. Oh, just so you know, the handout I gave you. So there is a method. I don't know if you've been introduced to it yet. I kind of hope you haven't. But there is a method of writing to-voice or Q&A by incorporating the first word, commonly the first word that is used, and it with a question or with an answer, so that you can hit your answer bar and no in the same stroke. Or okay, have you been introduced to this? Okay, so this is also, that's what this in the margin is referring to. This is also a great drill for reinforcing that. In fact, if you guys really like this, I'd be happy to replace this 1 week for you, right? Okay, so let me know. I'll check with you on Friday. You could write and read this instead. Here we go with the question. Okay, could you please state your name for the record?
Ana Maria Garcia.
And have you had a chance to meet with your attorney before the deposition this afternoon?
M?
Yes. Have you ever had your deposition taken before?
No.
Let me show you a document that's entitled Renotice of Taking Deposition with Production of Documents Required. Have you ever seen this document or one similar to it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you bring any documents with you today in response to the deposition notice?
No.
Okay. Do you have any with you? Well, if there's something that you don't have, or you think you're missing, I'll ask your attorney to check his files and get it for you. So if you would take a look at that later, and if there's photographs, repair estimates, or things along those lines that weren't produced, mail a copy to us. I understand it's not your car, so I would understand if you don't have the repair estimate. I'm going to go over some of the ground rules before we get started. I'm sure these are things that your attorney probably already explained to you, but I want to make it clear on the record. You understand that you've been given an oath, and that's the same oath you would take in a court of law, requiring your truthful testimony and the same penalties for perjury.
Uh-huh.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
It's important to answer all questions audibly with a yes or no, or I don't know. Try to remember to keep your answer in the form of spoken words rather than uh-huh or uh-uh. Answers or pointing or nods of the head, shrugs of the shoulders, all those types of responses are unclear, especially when we're making a written transcript here. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. If you don't understand a question, let me know and I'll rephrase it. If you don't hear a question, let me know and I'll repeat it. If you answer a question, it's going to be assumed that you understood it, and your answer would be based on that understanding. Fair enough?
Yes.
If you want to take a break at any time for any reason, just let me know and we'll take a break. Okay, so what this is an example of is an admonition. So admonitions are instructions, basically. An admonition is an instruction. They always occur at the beginning of a deposition. They're very similar in nature from one deposition to the next. So if you have the same attorney repeatedly and you take his depositions, they're going to be very similar, and they're fast, and that's why, because they say them so many times, that's why it's important to really practice these, and why it's to your advantage to get briefs for these common phrases in them. So here is, look at this, we each get our own copy. Here is some two voice now, and this is also an example of an admonition. So again, this is going to be you know, telling the witness all about what's going to happen today, what's going to happen with the transcript, so on and so forth, what they can and can't do. So I am the question.
I will answer.
And again, this is not counted, so we don't want to get too fast. These guys are 100, 120. On the record with the question. Would you state your name for the record, please, ma'am?
Kelly Jones.
Is it singular or is it Jones?
Jones with an S.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Jones, have you ever had your deposition taken before?
No.
Have you had an opportunity to speak with your attorney, Mr. Stokes, in a general fashion before coming here this morning about what a deposition is, and generally an overview of what's going to happen here this morning.
Yes.
Okay. If any of my questions to you are unclear to you for any reason, please don't answer the question. Tell me you have some uncertainty or unclearness, and I will try to rephrase the question. Certainly, it could be a word or phrase that I use that you're not certain of the meaning. Don't be embarrassed. Tell me you're not certain what that word means if that happens. The question, relationship to a previous question, time frame. If anything's unclear, just don't answer and let me know. Okay?
Okay.
I will be asking you questions that call for your estimate of time, distance, speed, things of that nature. And if you have some basis in fact for giving me an estimate, then I am entitled to what's called your best estimate. And if you are giving me an estimate, please use whatever word you think is appropriate to indicate that, like about, almost, approximately, or whatever you wish to use. Except I don't want you to use the word I guess, because that's not going to help me, or it's not going to help your attorney. A distinction and example I always give as a basis of fact as opposed to a guess is, if I ask you to estimate the length and width of this table at which we are seated, you can do that because you can see it, you can touch it, you have some sensory experience with it. If I ask you the same question about a table that's downstairs at another conference room that you've never seen, your answer would be a guess because you have no experience with that table downstairs. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I'm not here to trick you or confuse you. I just want to find out what you know and what you do not know.
Okay.
At the end of the deposition, it's prepared by a reporter in a booklet form. All my questions, any comments that your attorney may make, and any questions from Ms. Uberoy, you can review the deposition and make corrections. If you make corrections that are of a material nature, red to white, black to green, day to night, something of that nature, or something more substantial, I would be able to comment on that to the trier of the fact. Do you understand that, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
And if you should testify differently at a later hearing than how you testified this morning, I would also be able to comment on that. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If at any time in the deposition you think you gave an incorrect answer or an incomplete answer, or you could not answer my question because something just didn't come to your mind at that time, and if you later in the deposition remember what you couldn't remember or think you might have given an incorrect answer, excuse me, you can just say something and speak up, and you can make whatever correction or amendment you wish to make.
Okay.
Do you know any reason why your deposition should not proceed today?
No.
Are you presently on any medications, ma'am?
No.
Are you presently under any medical practitioner's care for the injuries that you sustained in this accident?
Well, I did have a recent visit this past weekend because I had a flare-up of my neck and back hurting. But I don't have another scheduled visit.
And who was that with?
Stephen Combe.
Chiropractor come? And when did you go see the chiropractor?
This past Monday and a follow-up on Thursday, last Thursday.
So you've been 2 times?
Yes.
Chiropractor, if you don't already have a brief for that, you should look it up. It comes up a lot. Chiropractor, chiropractic. And I want to say it's K-R-A-K. That might be chiropractic. I don't remember. Is it in a little book?
It's in 2 strokes.
What do they have it as?
KPRABG, second stroke, TO1. So K-Prac, commendatory.
And one of the words came up in here. You guys were, you said Ms. Douglas the other day introduced you to the INT or the IMP? Oh, it's EMP, not ENT. Okay, because there was a
IMP and
INT.
EMP.
Okay, this one doesn't fall in that category. Never mind, I was thinking of another word. Different word. So you can see how the terminology is pretty simple. I mean, similar between the, the admonitions, the 2 different ones.
Somebody had too much time on their hands.
No, they just did this on their own. Nobody did this. That's the weird thing. Okay, we're going to segue into something else now. So this we want to read. This is counted 2 different ways. We want to read the plain numbers. Those are the ones that are not circled. Every 10 seconds. I think that's going to give us a 120. Yep. So that'll be 120. So again, this is warm up now on the record, and this will be at 120. Starting with the question. Okay. Can you describe exactly what was done to the bed in order to accomplish the adjustment and have it sit flush with the floor?
Yes. Well, Mr. Wilson adjusted the hydraulic pulley on the back. He was looking in the instruction guide and he was adjusting that. He only got so much of what it was. After that, he told me he was going to get in touch with the guys that had installed it, you know. He got in touch with them, and I guess they finished working on it, and they got it to where it was sitting flush on the floor. That's what he told me the next day.
So was Mr. Wilson unable to get the bed to sit flush?
He had the set of instructions, but he couldn't get it. They got it later on. It was flat to the floor like it was supposed to be.
Mr. Wilson was able to get the bed to go further to the floor, but not all the way to the floor?
Not all the way. He got it to go a little bit.
Was it Landau Construction that he called to come and adjust the bed further?
It was the guys who had done the construction, done the renovations.
But you don't know the name of the company, what it was?
I don't remember.
Okay, does March of 1992 ring a bell? Was that approximately the time of the renovations and the time that you made the adjustments?
It was the time of the renovations, but I don't know exactly when we did this. I'm not exactly sure.
Have you ever seen this memo before?
No, I don't remember.
You've never seen it before right now, is that right?
Yes.
Can you look at the second page? Have you ever seen anything like that before?
No, I don't recall seeing that.
The actual document does not look familiar to you?
Okay.
Am I right?
Yes. I don't recall seeing this before.
Mr. O'Brien, will you look at the photocopy of the photograph at the top on the left? Underneath it says, sits about 3 inches off of the floor and slams down when you sit and lay down. It has an arrow pointing to kind of the leg bar on the bed. Is that pretty much an accurate description of the problem, that the leg did not come all the way down to the floor?
Yes.
Have you ever seen this document before today? I'm giving you a page with Holiday Inn letterhead at the top. It's a fax transaction dated December 1792.
No.
Let me ask you a question about the previous page with the photographs. Do you recognize that handwriting underneath the photographs?
The handwriting, no. I don't recognize it.
Have you ever seen this document before? It's a memorandum dated November 18, 1992 from Pedro Sanchez to Tom Higgins.
No, I have never seen it before.
Do you know the name Tom Higgins?
No.
Do you know the name Pedro Sanchez?
No.
Who is it that actually told you to go to that room while the adjustments were being made to the bed?
Mr. Wilson asked me to assist him in it. I went with Mr. Wilson.
Did he come to you that morning, the morning that the adjustments were being made, and just ask you to walk to the room with him?
I can't say it was early in the morning or afternoon, but I know it was that day I was working.
I guess what I'm asking is, did he ask you the same day that the adjustments were made? Did he ask you the day before?
The day he made the adjustments, yes.
Okay, we're going to put this next batch on clean paper 4, read back. Taryn, if you're interested in I can scan and email you the sheet that I handed out today. It has a bunch of briefs, and then we're going to do it on Friday. Would you like me to do that? Okay, I will do that. And then we're going to go over it and dictate it on Friday. So this will be for read back now, and I'm going to call on you also, Taryn. So let's read this in. like 14s, 15s. Okay. This will be so slow. Don't fall asleep on me, okay? Okay, here we go. I don't think I asked you this before. At the time that these adjustments were made, were you the head maintenance man?
Yes, I was.
Did he give you any kind of memo or writing with the assignment to go to this room and make the adjustments?
No, him and I went together. He had just the instructions.
Did he typically give you any kind of written assignments when something needed to be done? Did he tell you to your face, or did he hand you something in writing?
We had maintenance slips. We had a maintenance book. He would write it down, or the desk clerks would write down when something was wrong with the room, and we would go check it out.
Did Mr. Wilson very often go do this kind of task personally?
Well, Mr. Wilson would do a lot of maintenance work too. Yes, he would work on it. On some jobs, yes, he would.
Do you have any understanding why, on occasion, he would perform maintenance himself, and sometimes he would get you to do it?
Well, he was our maintenance supervisor too.
Were there particular types of tasks that he would do and other types that he would get you to do?
Yes.
What types would he typically do himself? Was there any clear distinction at all between what he would do and what he would get you to do?
No. Basically, what we did was some of the things he would do sometimes too.
Was there any reason why some of your assignments would be written and some of them not? Do you know if there was any reason for that?
Well, like some of our assignments would be written if something would happen in the night. We would get the written assignment from the tickets. And then some of our assignments would be called over the radio. We would just get a call and we would write it down ourselves, or housekeeping people would write it down. And after we got the ticket, we would sign it later on that evening.
Okay, let's take a look at that. I'm going to unmute you, Taryn. Okay, so, Kate, you want to start, please?
Question, I don't think I asked you this before. At the time that these adjustments were made, were you the head maintenance man? Answer, yes, I was. Question, did he give you any kind of memo or writing with the assignment to go to this room and make the adjustments? Answer, no. No. No, together. He had the instruction question. He typically gave you any kind of written assignments when something needed to be done. Did he tell you to your face, or did he hand you something in writing? Answer: we had maintenance slips. We had a maintenance book. He would write it down, or the desk clerk would write down when something was wrong with the room, and we would go check it out.
Great. I have desk clerks, Carol. Thank you. Taryn, go ahead.
Question. Did Mr. Wilson...
I'm not hearing you. I got to undo my speaker here. Okay, now you can go.
Question. Did Mr. Wilson ever offer...
Very.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, very often.
Very often go to this kind of task? Personally, answer, well, Mr. Wilson would do a lot of maintenance too.
Maintenance work? Yeah, maybe.
No.
Maybe.
Yes, he would work on it on some jobs. Yes, he would. Question, do you have any understanding with why on occasion he would perform maintenance himself, and sometimes we would get you to do it? Answer, well, he was our maintenance supervisor too. And question, were there some kind of tasks?
Okay, wait a second. Were there particular types of tasks?
Tasks that he would do and get you to do? Answer, yes.
Okay, that last question, there was a little drop there at the end. Tasks that he would do and other types that he would get you to do. Thank you. Go ahead, Araceli.
Question. What types would he typically do himself? Was there any clear distinction at all between what he would do and what he would get you to do? Answer, no. Basically, what we did was some of the things he would do. Sometimes two. Question, was there any reason why some of your assignments would be written and some of them not? Do you know if there was any reason for that? Answer, well, like some of our assignments would be written if something would happen in the night. We would get the written assignment from the tickets, and then some of our assignments would be called over the radio. We would just get a call and we would write it down ourselves, or housekeeping people would write it down, and after we got the ticket, we would sign it later on in the evening.
Very good. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to repeat what we just did. I'm going to turn my speaker off again, Taryn.
Okay.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to repeat what we did faster, and then continue it on. So let's start. Let's do what we read already. Let's do it in nines, and then when we get here, we're going to go to tens. Okay? So nines are going to be faster than what we just did. Okay, here we go on the record. I don't think I asked you this before. At the time that these adjustments were made, were you the head maintenance man?
Yes, I was.
Did he give you any kind of memo or writing with the assignment to go to this room and make the adjustments?
No, him and I went together. We had just the instruction.
Did he typically give you any kind of written assignments when something needed to be done? Did he tell you to your face, or did he hand you something in writing?
We had maintenance slips. We had a maintenance book. He would write it down, or the desk clerks would write it down when something was wrong with the room, and we would go check it out.
Did Mr. Wilson very often go do this kind of task personally?
Well, Mr. Wilson would do a lot of maintenance work too. Yes, he would work on it. On some jobs, yes, he would.
Do you have any understanding why on occasion he would perform maintenance himself and sometimes he would get you to do it?
Well, he was our maintenance supervisor too.
Were there particular types of tasks that he would do and other types that he would get you to do?
Yes.
What types would he typically do himself? Was there any clear distinction at all between what he would do and what he would get you to do?
No, basically what we did was some of the things he would do sometimes too.
Was there any reason why some of your assignments would be written and some of them not? Do you know if there was any reason for that?
Well, like some of our assignments would be written if something would happen in the night. We would get the written assignment from the tickets.
And then some of your assignments would be called over the radio.
We would just get a call and we would write it down ourselves, or housekeeping people would write it down. And after we got the ticket, we would sign it later on that evening.
You don't know of any reason why some of them would not be in writing, do you?
Well, like sometimes we might be pressured. The lady might not have time to write it down. They might not have time to write it down and they just tell us. We write it down later ourselves, stuff like that.
Do you know why Mr. Wilson decided to do this particular task personally?
Well, like I said, Mr. Wilson just decided to check it himself because he noticed it. He decided to check it out.
You don't know why though, do you?
No.
Did he have discussions with the construction company during the renovations before he did the adjustments? Do you know?
No, not that I know of.
Do you happen to know where he got the instruction manual?
No.
You don't know?
No.
Was Mr. Wilson the only other person in the room at the time that he was making the adjustments?
Besides me, yes.
About how long did he work on the bed?
Approximately about 5-10 minutes. It wasn't long. It wasn't long at all.
Did you do anything other than watch him?
No.
Did he express some frustration that he couldn't get the bed to sit flush to the floor?
No.
Do you know why he wanted you in the room while he was making the adjustments?
Well, he always called me when he would do some things. I would go with him, you know.
Did the hotel have any other in-wall beds other than the bed that was in room 200?
Yes, they did.
Do you know about how many?
No, they had an in-wall bed before they renovated, I'm saying.
Was that in room 200?
Yes.
Did the hotel have any other in-wall beds in any other rooms?
No.
Okay. Did you ever have to make any kind of adjustments to the bed that had been there previously?
No, I did not.
Do you know if anybody else had to?
No.
To your knowledge, no other adjustments had been made.
Yes, to my knowledge.
Can you describe now exactly what Mr. Wilson did in making the adjustments?
He was trying to get the bed to go down. They had a hydraulic jack on the back of the bed, and all I remember, he adjusted those screws to try to make it go down some. That's the only screws that I saw him adjust.
I may have the manual, or I may have a manual similar to the one that he had. Would you look at this and tell me if you recognize it?
Yes,
That looks like the manual.
yes, that looks like it. Yes,
Would you turn to page 3 of the manual? As I understand it, now the actual bed that was in the room when you guys had to make the adjustments was slightly different, and there may have been 3 of these hinge springs attached to the base plate. Do you recall whether there were 2 or 3?
I think it was 2 if I'm not mistaken.
Were you in a position to actually view down over the top of the bed and see the springs and the base plate?
Right here on top of this board.
Yes.
Yes, I could see this. This is how you got it right here.
I mean, on the actual bed, though, you see where it says base plate? This is what I'm referring to as the board.
Yes, I was in the position where I could see all that. Yes,
Does this diagram accurately reflect that bed?
yes, it does.
Can you point out to me what was being adjusted by Mr. Wilson?
He was adjusting the little bolt that was on the hinge spring. He was adjusting this back here to make this go down some. That's what he said.
How was that? It's a pretty long segment. That was all 120. Okay, we're going to do a much shorter segment now, and it'll be a little faster. And this will be the last thing we do probably before takes. So now we're going to do these in 9s, each one. 9. On the record, let's do this up here so they can hit hydraulic jack again, because that must be so much fun to write. There we go. Can you describe now exactly what Mr. Wilson did in making the adjustments?
He was trying to get the bed to go down. They had a hydraulic jack on the back of the bed, and all I remember, he adjusted those screws to try to make it go down some. That's the only screws that I saw him adjust.
I may have the manual, or I may have a manual similar to the one that he had. Would you look at this and tell me if you recognize it?
Yes,
That looks like the manual?
yes, that looks like it. Yes,
Would you turn to page 3 of the manual as I understand it? Now, the actual bed that was in the room when you guys had to make the adjustments was slightly different, and there may have been 3 of these hinge springs attached to the base plate. Do you recall whether there were 2 or 3?
I think it was 2 if I'm not mistaken.
Were you in a position to actually view down over the top of the bed and see the springs and the base plate?
Right there on top of this board.
Yes.
Yes, I could see this. This is how you got it right here.
I mean, on the actual bed, though, you see where it says base plate? This is what I'm referring to as the board.
Yes, I was in the position where I could see it all. Yes,
Does this diagram accurately reflect that bed?
yes, it does.
Can you point out to me what was being adjusted by Mr. Wilson?
He was adjusting the little bolt that was on the hinge spring. He was adjusting this back here to make this go down some. That's what he said.
You are pointing to the spring tube, and specifically what bolt on the tube was he adjusting?
This bolt right here.
That was really short. Okay, we're going to continue on same way 9s. This is different material. Ready? For the record, will you please state your full name and address?
Ralph A. Dominic Jr. I live at 2441 Judge Perez Drive,
What's your date of birth?
6/16/70.
Do you know your social security number?
No, I do not.
All right, this address you gave, is that your parents' house or yours?
That's my parents' house.
You live with your parents?
Yes, I do.
Are you presently employed?
Yes, I am.
Where are you employed at the present time?
Factory direct.
What kind of business is that?
Siding.
Excuse me?
Siding.
Were you working there on January 3rd, 93?
No, sir.
Were you working at that time?
No, sir.
What's your educational background? Did you finish high school?
I graduated from Chalmette High.
When was that?
That was in 91.
If at any time I ask you a question that is not clear to you, or you do not understand, please stop me and I'll rephrase it.
Okay.
When I ask you a question, give me a yes or no, and then you can explain your answer, as opposed to a shake of the head. That can be misinterpreted. The last thing is I ask that you let me finish my question before you give an answer. Sometimes people anticipate the end of a question and start answering, and you have the court reporter trying to take down 2 people talking at one time. Okay?
All right.
Have you ever been involved in any other accidents other than this accident?
No, sir.
Who is your family doctor?
I don't know if I have a family doctor.
Who do you go to if you have the flu or anything like that?
The last time I remember is Dr. Caraway.
What did you go to him for?
It's been a long time. I guess it was the flu. I don't know. It's been a couple of years.
Was it before or after this accident that you went to him?
It was before.
Are you married?
No, sir.
Have you ever been married?
No, I have not.
Have you ever been arrested or convicted of any crime?
No, sir.
Let's get into the facts of the accident itself. What time did the accident occur?
What time? It was night. I don't know what exact time.
Do you know approximately?
It was about 8.
Is that 8 at night?
Yes, it was dark.
Did you work that day?
No, I did not work that particular day.
What day was that of the week?
I don't remember. I know it was January 3rd.
Do you know if it was a weekday or a weekend?
It was a weekday.
What had you done that day?
I don't quite remember.
Okay, that's all the warm-up we're going to do. So I'm going to quickly stop the recording and restart it.